Hello, I'm Lara Kulcharsan and this is Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online. As protests in Iran intensify, social media users are expressing concern that demonstrations are being influenced by foreign agents. A tweet by former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Tel Aviv is actively involved.
The Iranian regime is in trouble. Bringing in mercenaries is its last best hope. Riots in dozens of cities and the Basij under siege. Mashhad, Tehran, Zahedan. Next stop, Baluchistan. 47 years of this regime, President Trump. Coincidence? Happy New Year to every Iranian in the streets. Also to every Mossad agent walking beside them.
While there have been overwhelming support for protests, the torching of mosques and government buildings have been criticized online. Many say this is also the work of foreign agents, and such actions detract from the legitimate concerns of millions of Iranians who are demanding change.
Israel is behind the riots in Iran. I am not saying the conditions in Iran are peachy, and I am not saying the Iranian government is doing everything they can for their people. I am not saying that the Iranian government is perfect and there are no human rights violations. I believe that every government should be held accountable by its own people. But these riots, specifically, like the burning of the 30 mosques, the attack on children, the instigation posts on TikTok, the digital warfare on X, has Israel's signature all over it. What people seem to forget is that Iran has been under sanctions since 1979, has economical, diplomatic, humanitarian, social, and psychological impacts, and the people will feel those impacts the most. So countries like the US and Israel will absolutely take advantage of those pain points and squeeze, hence encouraging the riots and blaming the government. This is manufacturing consent and spreading of atrocity propaganda to wage war on Iran and bomb it to smithereens.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has also claimed that protests were deliberately violent to give the US an excuse to intervene. But there have also been claims that Tehran is employing a shoot-to-kill policy. These have been some of the deadliest demonstrations in Iran in years. A government official claimed that more than 2,000 people had been killed in 3 weeks of protests. What started as anger over the soaring cost of living quickly turned into widespread anti-government demonstrations. A long-standing critic of Iran, the United States said that any country doing business with Tehran will face a 25% tariff on trade with Washington. With the public execution of a protester scheduled to take place on Wednesday, US President Donald Trump urged Iranians to take over state institutions, saying that help is on its way. After days of an internet blackout, Elon Musk provided his Starlink internet service to some parts of Iran. In the absence of voices from the ground, the Iranian diaspora and human rights groups have been spreading awareness.
The killing of peaceful demonstrators must stop. The labeling of protesters as terrorists to justify violence against them is unacceptable. We urge the Iranian authorities to halt immediately all forms of violence and repression against peaceful protesters and to restore full access to the internet and telecommunications services.
The Premier of Greenland said today, "We prefer to stay with Denmark." Do you see that as the final word?
Who said that?
The Premier of Greenland.
Well, that's their problem. That's their problem. I disagree with them. I don't know who he is, don't know anything about him, but that's going to be a big problem for him.
That was President Trump brushing aside Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen's comments that his people want to remain part of Denmark, not become part of the United States. Trump first floated the idea of acquiring Greenland during his first term and revived it again as he returned to office last year. But this month, he has intensified his rhetoric, insisting the US must have the island one way or the other, even if diplomacy fails. The president argues Washington needs control of the island to boost Arctic security, citing what he says is growing influence from China and Russia in the region. Greenland, backed by Denmark and many European allies, have pushed back forcefully, warning that any attempt to seize control would undermine NATO and violate international law. In Greenland's snow-covered capital Nuuk, daily life goes on, but beneath the routine, there's a growing sense of unease. Residents are trying to work, commute, and carry on, while grappling with questions about their future. Questions now amplified by a constant stream of alerts, headlines, and breaking news on their phones. And across the island, one message is consistent. Greenlanders say their home is not for sale.
I feel like he should rather focus on his own people and their health care and their living and take care of that rather than try to take over another country.
I like this peaceful life in Greenland, you know. I think he's just gonna destroy it if he buys it. Stick with Denmark, you know.
The Danish kingdom, that's Denmark, and we're part of NATO. And I can't understand why he keeps wanting to take us. That's a childish thing, I think.
No matter what, we as a Greenlandic people, we are up for diplomacy, we're up for democracy, we're up for justice, and we're not gonna grab the sword. We're not gonna go into any kind of warfare. What we're gonna find is hopefully some kind of diplomatic solution.
Ever since President Trump unveiled his desire to acquire the Arctic island, Greenland has been dominating global headlines. But many people know very little about the place itself.
Greenland is the largest island in the world that is not a continent. Geographically, it is located in North America. But politically and culturally, it has been tied to Europe for nearly 1,000 years. That's because Greenland is an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. It has its own flag, its own national anthem, and its own government, led by Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen. Denmark still handles its defense and foreign policy, but day-to-day governance is run locally. Greenland in itself is not a NATO member, but is through its alliance with Denmark, who became a founding member in 1949. It is not a member of the European Union, nor is it part of the Schengen area. That means a Schengen visa, or even a visa for Denmark, does not automatically allow entry into Greenland. The official language is Kalaalleq, also known as West Greenlandic. That said, most Greenlanders speak fluent Danish. A large number also speak English. Despite its enormous size, Greenland is home to just around 56,000 people. They're not spread evenly, as large parts of the island are completely uninhabitable. That's because around 80% of the island is covered in ice. So why is it called Greenland? The name Greenland was coined more than 1,000 years ago by the exiled Viking Eric the Red. The idea was to make the land sound appealing to settlers and traders. For example, Greenland sounds much more appealing than neighboring Iceland. Getting around Greenland is another surprise. There are no roads or railways connecting towns and cities. Travel between settlements happens by plane, helicopter, boat, and in some areas, by dog sleigh. Despite its size, Greenland has just 2 traffic lights, both located in the capital, Nuuk. The sea and fjords act as the country's main transport network, which is why more people own boats than cars. And with so few people and very little industry, Greenland is known for having some of the cleanest air and water on Earth.
Meanwhile, President Trump appears to be embracing a new title, at least online. It comes amid growing confusion over who is actually in charge of Venezuela. On his Truth Social account, Trump shared what looks like a screenshot of his Wikipedia page. It's edited to list him as acting president of Venezuela as of January 2026, placed directly beneath his official portrait. His real Wikipedia page, however, remains unchanged, still identifying him as the 45th and 47th President of the United States. The post comes days after the US carried out a military operation inside Venezuela on January 3rd, capturing President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores. Both are now facing drug and weapons-related charges. Trump has since said his administration would run Venezuela and oversee its all assets during what he describes as a transition period. Following Maduro's capture, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez was sworn in as interim president. Eyes and attention are back on Myanmar as the International Court of Justice starts public hearings on the alleged genocide of Rohingya Muslims. The landmark case was brought by the Gambia in 2019 as it's backed by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, accusing Myanmar of violating the Genocide Convention. Myanmar's military carried out so-called clearance operations in 2017, forcing more than 700,000 Rohingya to flee to neighboring Bangladesh. It's accused of mass killings, sexual violence, village burnings, and other abuses.
The Myanmar military went on a killing spree. We survived.
All eyes on Rohingya.
This hearing is not symbolic.
Against our families.
Against our communities.
We are all survivors.
For years, we were denied justice.
This is for the lives stolen and for the lives that survived.
Justice will be served. Impunity will not exist. All eyes on Rohingya.
More than 1 million Rohingya live as refugees in camps in Bangladesh, mainly in the Cox's Bazar district. 8 years later, their struggle continues as global attention has shifted to other conflict zones. The case will be closely watched as its outcome could shape South Africa's genocide case against Israel. But for the Rohingya, life in the camps continues under extremely harsh conditions.
I hope the Rohingya refugee camp in Cox's Bazar is not becoming one of the most dirty places in the world. Can you see the drainage behind me, which is filled by the contaminated waste such as bottles, plastic and other waste? This is just one drainage in the camp. And there are thousands of other drainage like this in every camp. All of these drainage are filled by the contaminated waste, and there are waste around the camp. And there are so many drainage like this one, which are very close to the children learning centers of NGOs. Can you imagine how the children in this learning center may suffer this? So I want to urge the NGOs to take immediate action on the environment in the camp.
For the first time in history, NASA is evacuating astronauts from the International Space Station. They're returning back to Earth early due to a medical emergency. The space agency has not named the sick astronaut or their illness, but said it was serious and the crew of 4 could return as soon as Thursday.
Breaking space news: until now, no NASA astronaut has ever had to leave the International Space Station early due to an in-flight medical emergency. One of these astronauts is sick or injured, and we don't know the details of who or what that might be, but we know that they're stable. There was a spacewalk scheduled where these 2 astronauts, the pilot and the commander, are going to put on their spacesuits and leave the ISS, but it was canceled. The ISS has extensive medical equipment, including things like ultrasound, so I think that whatever this is cannot be treated in space with the tools and medicine that they have available to them. So my head is going to kidney stones, appendicitis, things like that.
The evacuation has sparked discussions on what happens when you get sick in space and what facilities are in place to treat illnesses.
We have a very robust suite of medical hardware on board the International Space Station, but we don't have the complete amount of hardware that I would have in the emergency department, for example, to complete a workup of a patient. And in this particular incident, that the medical incident was sufficient enough that we were concerned about the astronaut, that we would like to complete that workup. And the best way to complete that workup is on the ground, where we have the full suite of medical testing hardware.
Millennials' beloved toy Tamagotchi is still alive and kicking as it turns 30 this year. The iconic 90s digital pet was once the dream of almost every kid worldwide. Now, 3 decades on, fueled by Gen Z's love of retro trends, Tamagotchi is being celebrated with an exhibition in Tokyo. Manufacturer Bandai Namco says more than 100 million have been sold worldwide since they first took the world by storm.
I had found a Tamagotchi on the ground 100 years ago when I was a kid, when they were really hard to get and you couldn't afford them, or at least my parents didn't give me money to go get one. And this year is the year I started to kind of buy a lot of the stuff that I had when I was a kid. And my 2 daughters were just enamored with it. So for Christmas we got them each their own, and they've been off to the races since.
I think it's cool, like you don't touching your phone, just taking care of a little virtual pet. And it's really cute, and I think it's good for you. Just get off the phone, appreciate the small things of the life. we want to be something different and searching for old reference to create our own personality.
And that's our show. Find our latest stuff on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. See you soon.